Hey, Liquidators! Welcome back to another FX Liquidators weekly forecast by Esky and Heat. This time, we're live. Today we're going to do some analysis on EU. Then we're going to go to gold and have a quick analysis of gold. And we actually had a request to do some analysis, so we're going to do that one as well. The analysis we'll be doing is a company called Eagle Bulk Shipping Incorporated. So we'll get into that at the end of the show. So let me start it off with the usual EU analysis, but I'm going to do it a little differently this week because I'm starting to see some interesting things on Dixie. And for those that don't know, Dixie has a huge influence on a lot of the currency pairs, especially the ones paired with USD. So that's why I want to put a little focus on this, because I think potentially what I'm seeing on EU could have a huge influence on EU. So as we can see on the monthly time frame, it is bearish right now. And if we break down to the weekly range or weekly time frame, we can see that after the monthly breakup structure, we're in a pretty big range that's being held by this weekly boundary right here. And this is actually the area that I want to put the most focus on today. If we go to the daily, so as you can see on the daily, we broke structure to the upside, and we've come up almost to the protected weekly high, and we're starting to see the price slow down a little and start to consolidate a little. And the reason why this is interesting is it's actually in a supply zone. And this supply zone can potentially be the area where the price reverses from. So if I go down even further on the 4-hour, you can see that on the 4-hour, we are still bullish. We haven't broken any structure to the downside yet, but we can start to see some structure being built that's starting to build somewhat of a Wyckoff schematic. And if we go down a little further on the hourly, you can see on the hourly that it's already started to break structure to the downside. So it actually came up here in our supply zone, pushed down and broke some minor structure, giving some signs that it may go down to the downside, then came right back up, tested the supply zone again, pushed off from it, came down again a little more, didn't break any structure, but came back up and again tested the supply zone. And from here, it went down and broke a little structure, creating the 1-hour break of structure. And the question mark now is what's Dixie gonna do next? So, I mean, the way I look at it, there is a possibility that it comes up, hits one of the supply zones that's been created on the push down, and then drops from there. So this is one of the potential things I see. I also see that it may actually come up, test some of the higher areas, potentially even breaking the 4-hour liquidity target, and then from there coming down. But the way I see it right now, there is a chance that it may come down from here. And this is a key point for my analysis, because if Dixie comes down, essentially it'll give strength to some of the majors like EU, NU, AU, and GU, for example, where those currencies may push up if the dollar becomes weaker. So I hope that's clear on the Dixie side. And if I go to EU, so on the EU side, if I start with the monthly, so on the monthly we are bullish, in terms of structure. On the weekly, we are currently bearish. It actually broke structure the week below last, and this was key to the analysis on EU, because I was thinking at one point or another it's going to go lower and hit one of these weekly demand zones before pushing back up. And then if we go on the daily as well is currently bearish. So it broke some structure to the downside, created a lower low, and from this level it's actually starting to consolidate. On the 4-hour time frame, once again we broke structure on the 4-hour time frame, came down, created some a bearish break, a little deeper into some of the demand zones that we had marked down. But what we're seeing now is we're starting to see some consolidation. And if we go to the 1 hour, this is where we start to see something similar on as Dixie, where we did start to see some breaks of structure to the upside. And because of that, I think at least short term, there is a chance that we may see EU go up instead of further down as I originally had in mind. So you can see last week we had a big drop. We were expecting it to go down further, but instead it started to do some consolidation, create some structure, break off those structures, create higher highs. Now it's doing its consolidation, and potentially we could start to see some Wyckoff forming here. And this Wyckoff forming could come in the shape of a distribution where it pushes down. But at the same time, those distribution can often deceive you and actually be a reaccumulation where it comes down, creates some lower lows, some lows, and then after that just spikes up from there. We actually saw that in this area where we saw some distribution happening. It looked like it was going to push down, but this was actually liquidity forming. The price pushed down, and instead of continuing as you would normally expect with the distribution, it shot right up, which gave away that it wasn't a distribution, it was actually a reaccumulation. So that's what I'm thinking could potentially happen here. But in all honesty, it's not completely clear in the structure yet. We need a little more time for this to play out. And the two scenarios are in play. It could create some sort of distribution schematic, come down, and then just shoot up from there. And at the same time, a reaccumulation form schematic where it comes down and shoots up from there, or it could be a real distribution and it just shoots down and breaks below the protected lows. And if it does break below the protected lows, I mean, the likelihood is just going to continue falling and hit some of the lower demand zones. I mean, in my mind is what I'm looking for if I'm going to go short. But as of right now, my bias is shifted a little, and I'm looking more to see if it can come down to some of these demand zones to look for longs. And if this in fact plays out, this could actually be a monster trade. And the reason why I say that is, I mean, if you look at all the liquidity that was built up on this push down, there's a huge amount of liquidity that is built up. And potentially EU could go up and take back all of that liquidity before coming down and pushing to further lows. But at the same time, it could continue up, going to the very higher time frame and continue to the upside and break all the structure on the daily, weekly, and continue on to higher highs. But I mean, I believe that's weeks away before we're talking about that. But potentially for next week, we could start to see a long from here that could continue up, that could potentially be held for weeks. Okay, I believe that's it for me on EU. So let me pass it over to Eski to give his analysis on gold.
Hello Liquidators, how are we all doing? I hope we've all had a profitable week. and are ready for the trading week coming ahead. So before I get into my analysis, I just wanted to touch a bit more on my macro analysis I gave last week. So obviously for everyone who watched the last week's analysis, you know I'm looking for, whoops, let me just hide that. You know I'm looking for longs in this area. Why is that? Because this was the last demand zone that significantly broke structure. We've got inefficiency in the market there, and a really nice structural point what I would like to trade off. But I wanted to give a little bit more context within Wyckofian format, because how we trade our FX liquidators is we use structure, supply and demand, and Wyckoff. So I've done a little markup just to give you guys a bit more context to why long term I'm long on gold, even though we're going through this very long period going on for about a year and a quarter now of bearish order flow. So let me just reveal this. So we spent 13, 19, what's that? We spent about 6 years accumulating from 2013, 2019. Is that 6 years? Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's a long period of time where we went through this humongous Wyckoff accumulation. So we got our preliminary supply, buying climax, automatic rally, ST, SOS, ST again, STB, spring, SOS, LPS. If you're not too sure what Wyckoff is, not a problem. If you watch our live streams in the week when we trade, you can get some more insight into that. So we went through this huge accumulation, then we had the markup. So very much, we took 6 years to accumulate, and then we took 2 years to mark up. So because we spent so long in this range just accumulating, and we've just absolutely shot out in a third of the time. To me, that's a real that's a bullish signal. That's a really strong indicator that price wants to go up rather than down. So we look at the range we're currently in. My own bias is that we're going through a reaccumulation schematic. Okay, so we've got our PS again, which is our preliminary supply, a selling climax, buying climax. Yeah, so we've got a buying climax, a SO. So not many people use this term in the Wyckoff world, but for me, I call this a shakeout. So that's where we're shaking people out the market to then start manipulating and either accumulate or distribute. We've got an automatic rally, a second test, a sign of strength, a second test in phase B, and my bias is that when we reach this zone here is when we're going to see our spring, and then we're going to start to get the markup, building more liquidity, having our sign of strength, and then eventually having our LPS before the real move up happens. But yeah, this is extremely long term, very long term. So we're not going to talk too much more about it, but I just wanted to give you guys a bit more context to what we look at when we do a top down analysis. All the different concepts we bring together and we integrate to sort of form a personal bias. Yeah, so if we look at last week's price action, very interesting week. So we had NFP week, which is obviously it can be a challenging week to trade, obviously, because price action is looking to manipulate. It's going to be trapping sellers, trapping buyers before the NFP move, which normally looks to liquidate everybody and then continue on. So before I give you my sort of forward analysis, I just want to spend just a couple minutes talk about my trading journey last week and what I was seeing, what trades I took, and what eventually happened. So I was looking for price to trade into this supply zone, start of the week, or this supply zone here. If you watched my analysis last week, and I was either looking at this being protected or this being protected before trading down, because order flow right now is bearish, in alignment with the weekly, where order flow is very much bearish. So the right thing to assume is that we're going to continue bearish until we start seeing signs of structural reversal, which can happen at any point. Price can do what it wants to do. We're not always 100% right. It's just the nature of the beast. Yeah, so as I was trading last week, this range here to me was a Wyckoff distribution. Yeah, so we had our buying climax, automatic rally, up thrust, sign of weakness, up thrust after distribution. Then here, this point here was a critical point for me, is when order flow on the lower time frames, we had this little bullish market leg of bullish order flow, and then we break order flow, and to me we were going bearish. Yeah, so even though my supply zone targets were not here, I was looking for some shorts here. So I actually caught a short here and here. Okay, so I won't go too much into that, but if you want to see how we catch trades, and you know what we do from a trading point of view, please tune into our live trading sessions. We currently trade the New York London Open and the London session. Yeah, but obviously we all know how last week went. I got into some shorts, took quite a bit out of the trade, so you know I got the lion's share, you could say. I was initially targeting this demand area down here for this 4-hour swing low point to be broken. Yeah, but NFP happened on Friday, and bang, bang. What is great is actually my supply zone was hit, and then we started to trade downwards as my analysis last week was starting to think. But I don't trade NFP, so I simply got stopped out of my trades. But you know, I partial, so it means I took money off the table. So for me, it was a great trading week. So yeah, and I believe that's the end of price. So what can I expect for next week? So until price wants to tell me differently, this could very much be a reversal point. Because obviously, look, we have impulse to the top side, and what we have here was obviously what I thought was a distribution turned into a reaccumulation, because obviously price has gone to the top, but then we sold off in the supply zone, selling off down. So I got a really mixed bias. I'm going to keep myself open, because if we follow order flow from order flow point to order flow point, we're still going bearish. Okay, and this demand zone is invalid. Why is it invalid? It hasn't broke supply. It hasn't took control in the market on a larger scale. Okay, so I'm not necessarily expecting a reversal point from here. I'm not necessarily expecting a reversal point from this demand either, until price starts to play out, because we've come up into the supply zone and we've immediately sold off, and we're coming to the downside. So two things can happen when the market comes back into play next week. Is we can start putting in some bullish structure, look to take out the liquidity lying above the market, because there is a lot of buy side liquidity. You know, it would be silly for me to disregard it, even though we've got bearish order flow, because we've got inefficiency, we've got buy side liquidity, what could easily be swiped. So we could have a really good bullish leg for the next few weeks potentially, before then coming to the downside. I'm going to keep my long-term bias in play, mainly because one important thing. Everything I've already said, obviously, but there is some real significant equal lows in gold right now. Okay, and that is here. So we got equal low, equal low, equal low. So under every equal low or equal high in the market, there is stop losses. Okay, so those stop losses equals liquidity to the entities that have the most money in these markets, what move these markets, and they will look to liquidate stop losses so that they can get their fill orders and move price in the direction they want to move it in. So I'm still very much bearish, but for me, key points to look out for is what happens here. This sort of last point of demand on the 4-hour, that was responsible for taking out this supply zone here. But this was caused through news, so I'm not going to read too much into it until we start to see price unfolding next week. So Monday, most likely going to be sitting on my hands, and I'm going to let the market tell me where it wants to go, because if we start breaking structure to the top side, absolutely, we could be hitting here or here. But at the same time, when we open up, we could literally drop. And I'm going to keep my bearish bias in place. I'll be looking for sales and buys for any retracements on lower time frames. So that is pretty much it for me for gold. It's a mixed bias. I'm not absolutely certain, purely because of how price is playing out in this Wyckoff schematic here, which, you know, by definition is an accumulation, because we had a break to the top side. So this here could be our spring, and then we can come trade here, get our LPS, and yeah, start going bullish. So I need to see what structure is going to tell me. Then I'll start looking at the supply and demand of the market and be trading around that. Yeah, so I hope that's helped with your views for gold in the next week. If there's anything you feel you're missing from these analyses, if you're watching them and you want us to incorporate, please leave a comment. Yeah, so we've had a subscriber this week actually request we do a top down on a stock he's looking at, which is called Eagle. What's it called again, Heat? Eagle Shipping.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, it's Eagle Bulk Shipping Incorporated.
Cool. So what I want to show you viewers is very much the whole thought process from start to beginning when we're marking up whatever market it is we're trading. Because obviously when we're doing these weekly analyses, the chart's already marked up, so you don't get to see the start to finish. So I'll run through this, and then me and Heat we're gonna give our thoughts on what we see on Eagle Bulk Shipping. So for me, I like to start on the 6 month chart, because you get the biggest picture of price on this time frame, right? As we can see. The picture is really clear on the macro scale. What is going on? We've traded up, and around 2008, we see this massive drop in price. So you know, there's a whole magnitude of reasons to why this could have happened. So I don't think in terms of this analysis there's going to be much value in focusing on this, because I'm not sure we can get much out of this. So let's drop down to the monthly, see what we got. So yeah, we trade down, we create structural lows here on the monthly. We failed to break it, so again this whole leg down, supply is controlling this market, trading it down and down. So I'm just gonna mark this up real quick. So structure holds here, structure holds this whole leg, and you know, the last point here before a mark down, we see structure hold, subsequently breaking this structure, this demand here. So from I suppose order flow point of view, yeah, it's just extremely bearish. And then we trade down, have this massive impulse up, probably taking out all the buy side liquidity, because this is, I imagine this stock was heavily shorted for a long period of time. And yeah, the composite man has cleared everyone out here. But structure still holds, you know, indicating it's a bearish market. Structure holds here. Cool, and let's see what we got. So I mean, you could argue this whole trading range is on a macro scale, is we're in a discount area. You know, we're in a discount area to buy this stock. So let's have a look. Okay, so actually the story starts to change as we look down here. At least for a short term at least for a short-term outlook, because there's a lot of upside actually. I mean, this stock could trade up and up and up and up and up to release orders in the market here, fill market efficiencies here, release orders here, fill efficiencies up here. You know, there's a lot of upside to this stock. But yeah, let's mark it up. So I'm just gonna drop to a weekly. All right, so let's have a look. So look at order flow. So we go bang, up, down, down. Okay, so very much bearish here. So I'm just gonna signal that with blues. I suppose it's really easy when it's trading down like this. So if we forget that's there, just to say, well, it's just trading down. You know, especially at this point, it's like, you know, what can happen? And obviously we know what the story is. But what I see here is actually a really nice Wyckoff accumulation. Okay, so with Wyckoff, it's very much it's a snowflake. The characteristics are always the same, but each one looks different, right? So you need to be able to read price to understand what you're looking at, to differentiate between, is it a Wyckoff accumulation, distribution, reaccumulation, or a redistribution? You know, thankfully the schematics played out, so it's quite easy to mark up. So we got here a Liquidators climax, and we've had an automatic rally followed by a second test of the sellers climax. And these points here, you can consider them sign of strengths. I like to see my sign of strength to match the automatic rally or break it. But you know, it's very much a manipulation phase here. So I won't mark them for now. But this is very much, you know, our manipulation channel of price. Yeah. So what has happened here is we have a second test in phase B. Now we know that is phase B because it's liquidated the second test. And then finally we get our spring, which is the key characteristic of that. It needs to liquidate our second test in phase B and obviously be the last real down move before we get an up move. And obviously we've had that, which is great. So spring, yeah, so you know, very much bullish, but where can price go? What would be an ideal entry point if I was trading this? Because you know, the reality is our LPS, last point of supply, might not have hit yet. So when you've got a sign of strength in phase B, you can go through this whole period of price creating, you know, its own distribution before you get that last point, what will test your spring as such before getting the real markup. Now, I mean, it could have happened here, you know, where we traded up and then we marked up. But on a much larger scale, you know, I feel we could have some sort of distribution here before getting that LPS and trading up. So just do a bit more marking up here. Right, right. yeah, so right now I'm just sort of looking at all the structure points, just trying to really build a picture of price before I start going deeper on the lower time frames, because you know, when you want to analyze a market, you really want to start with the higher time frames and work your way down bit by bit. Cool, yeah, so you zoom into here and then it'll be focused on the daily. So what has happened here? You know, order flow, very much bullish. Start from this area. I'm just going to use a little yellow highlighting dots just to map out order flow here on the daily. So, you know, what does this tell me? What does this tell me? So we've got this structural level of demand here. And, you know, if you've never traded stocks before, the price action is a bit harder to read than on gold or Forex, because there's a lot of gaps in the market. So we're mark it out the best we can. So we've got this this structural block here. What was broken? Yes. And yeah, so this structural block here, with this this demand area here, was very much responsible for this big move up. Okay, and when we create this high here, this actually broke our AR on the schematic we marked up earlier, which is a good sign that, you know, this is a great area for bullishness, and we could get some longs off here. So obviously price is actually traded back into that structural point of interest and has gone back up. But the story kind of changes here. So as we traded up, we've created a supply zone here. Now, if you want to see obviously bullish market structure, when we traded back down into this structural zone, you'd kind of want to see demand really taking control here, and demand telling you that demand is in charge of this market, and we're trading upwards. But as we've come back into the supply zone, we've been unable to break it. So this could be the first indication that actually supply wants to regain control of this market, and you know, we could be trading downwards, hitting lower demand zones. So we break structure here. Holding here. Cool. Okay, so we traded up, traded down, held structure. Come back up, but we failed to break. As it failed to break here, yeah, so it did fail to break a second time here. So what I would like to see, I'm very much bullish on this, but what we have here is invalid demand. So this point here is invalid demand because it is failed to take control of supply here, and we've traded down, breaking this intermediary demand zone here, showing us that we've had a change of character. And what that means is we've liquidated the tops and then liquidated the lows. Okay, so we have this demand zone, you know, price trades up, liquidating all the structural highs here, but actually this supply zone is in control, and we could look at this high for now as a protected high if we were to flip bearish for a period of time. Let me just mark that up. But yeah,
I think we may have lost Eski there.
Yep, Eski is lagged out a little bit.
His internet connection is prone to go out from time to time. Unfortunately, during our live stream. Ah, he's back. Or partially back. Eski, mate, are you there? Let's give him another minute to come back. Otherwise, oh, looks like he's gone. Anyways, let's give him another minute to come back to finish his analysis. Otherwise, I may finish it up for him.
Y'all just have to edit it out then.
We're live. We are live, brother.
I thought I was making a video. Oh shit. Damn, my boy Eski lagged out. No worries, people. He'll come back soon.
There he is. Oh, his internet's still lagging.
hello.
Okay, there he is.
I do apologise, everyone. At what point? When did I cut out? Because I was talking for ages.
The 4-hour break of structure.
Yeah. So yeah. So if I was looking for longs in this market, it'd be very much from this demand zone here. Can't see it too clearly on the 4-hour, but the daily you can see it quite well. This was the last down move responsible for this expansion in price. What took out the structure here on the AR. So this could be our protected low, or this could be our protected high. Again, this is me looking at it with an open mind. I'll just delete that actually. Yeah. So at the moment, the market's not giving a clear indication where it wants to go. You could see where the engineered liquidity is in this market, and potential entry points. So for me, entry points would be trade down into this demand area, because I want to see this demand zone get liquidated, because this is very much engineered liquidity. And I'd like to see some confirmations from here in the form of Wyckoff. But structure could be broken here, and we could be going short into some lower demand zones. So where could that potentially be? Yeah, could be this one. Could be this one. There's a lot of inefficiency in the market, so this could easily trade down to $22 to $27 per share, but it could not. It's all about confirmations. But yeah, I'd be holding out if I was going long. I'd be waiting for price to come into the $34 region. So that's my view. Heat is already done a sort of analysis as well. So Heat, do you want to share your thoughts about what you see on Eagle?
Honestly, my thoughts are aligned with you. What I'd really like to see is a break of that high to give a little more confirmation that it is in fact intending to go higher. But for the time being, I do see it coming down a little. But that sign of strength was a very strong sign of strength. So there's a lot of question marks regarding this thoughts, at least for the way we trade. But what I did do on top of that is, I don't trade stocks, but it's very clear in my mind that stocks move particularly well with fundamental aspects. And I did check some of those fundamental aspects. And it does seem that, the earnings were quite strong with Eagle. So what I found was the price rose 4.5% in the last 4 weeks, which is a very strong indication that there is potential for this to go up. The company also had expected earnings growth of more than 100% for the current year. And on top of that, there were reports of earnings of over 25% just in the last 60 days. So that is very positive, and there is some potential for this to go up higher. But honestly, I see some short-term breakdowns. To what level, I don't know at this stage. But before it does start to go up, if it in fact goes up. Yeah.
So look, if you are watching these analyses and there's something you trade, whether it's crypto, stocks, Forex, anything, and you want us to give our insights and do a top-down analysis for yourself, leave a comment, let us know what it is, and we'll make sure to do it next week.
And that pretty much sums it up for us. Hope you guys enjoyed this week's weekly forecast. As he said, if there's anything in particular you'd like us to focus on for the next forecast, please feel free to post a comment, and we'll see those, and we'll be sure to have a look at those for the next weekly forecast. And if you enjoyed the video, please be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us out a lot. And that's about it. We also have our other social media contacts. If you want to follow us, feel free to subscribe to those as well. Any last words, Eski?
No. Have a great trading week, guys. And we'll see you in the London sessions this week if you're watching. If not, we'll catch you next Sunday for another top-down analysis.
Oh yeah, actually that's a good reminder. We are doing live trading sessions during the week as well. So up to now, it's been Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and hopefully we can continue to do that for the coming weeks. So that's it. Thanks a lot, guys. Until next time.